started kindergarten. And I know that what would happen, and my mother was just such a saint in the fact that she dealt with this same ritual every single Sunday. Every single Sunday night, I would get a very bad headache, and it would be the whole light sensitivity, and then it would go to the stomach, and then she would have, some cleaning up to do, let's just say. And she dealt with this, and she never yelled, and she never got frustrated, but it continued on and on and on, way until the time I was in high school, and then in college, and then through married life, and pretty much that it still continues today, that I still do get migraines. However, at one time, I remember just laying in bed and thinking that I didn't know how I was going to make it through. I didn't know how I was going to get through this one situation. And the anxiousness just, I believe, made the whole headache actually worse. But then there came a time when I somehow just believed that no matter what was happening, that God was with me. That there was no shame in having this pain. It wasn't that God had abandoned me because I was having these headaches, but instead it was a moment in which I would just hold tightly to God's hand, and we would endure through it together. Today, we are going to talk about pain, and I hope that this talk about pain offers you a new opportunity to look at your physical pain. So there can be lots of things that separate people, but the one thing that we know that is universal, that it doesn't matter what race you are, it doesn't matter if you're male or female, it doesn't matter if you're poor or rich, your pain is universal. All people at some time will suffer pain. Now, physical pain comes from the result of injury or illness. The International Association for the Study of Pain defines pain as an unpleasant sensory or emotional experience that is associated with actual or potential tissue damage, or as the described terms, that some other damage to our body. Now, pain might be the thing that is pointing us to the problem, or pain might be just something that it underlies our whole life. 50 million Americans suffer from chronic pain. That means that it isn't like your broken arm that you go and you have it set, and 8 weeks later you take off the cast and you do some rehab and you're as good as new. This is pain that each and every day they wake up knowing that they will be suffering once again. Another 25 million experience that kind of acute pain that comes from disease and injury. Pain costs us in America $100 billion annually because of lost days of work, medical expenses, and other related expenses because of pain. And so pain is something that invades our space. So pain is something that takes over our lives. It's something that is present for every single person, every family, every group of people. And people react differently to pain. There are the people that are the grin and bear it kind of people. And, they're going to just tough out the pain. And then there's those who will withdraw from society. They kind of go into their cocoon and hide during pain. There's those people who verbalize their expressions of pain. And they want people to be around them, and they want to be cared for when they're suffering. And there are those people that really truly expect and need people to react to their pain. But no matter what kind of person that you are, and no matter what kind of pain you're suffering, chronic pain or an individual illness or disease, it doesn't make your pain any less or any less real to you. Chronic pain can touch nearly every part of a person's life. That it'll impact their family, that it'll impact their economic situation, that it'll impact their social consequences. That when you are suffering from chronic pain, often you are withdrawn from the world. You know, Job, the guy we've been studying the last couple of weeks when we've been talking about pain. Job's situation, you know, in the story, it seems like it's kind of a whirlwind. You know, he's good, and then he's bad, and then it's over, even though it is 40-some chapters long. But it lasted. It wasn't like a broken arm. And it was despicable pain. The scripture tells us that he had intense, piercing pain, that his skin was peeling and bruised and darkened. He had pus-filled, erupting sores that were caked with worms. He was emaciated. He had a fever. He was suffering from depression, sleeplessness, nightmares. He had difficulty breathing, and his vision was failing. I think that it would be safe to say that Job was in pain. You know, today, even though we live in a space where there's good medical care, that we don't find ourselves necessarily sitting in a heap of ashes, scraping our sores with pieces of broken pottery, we still suffer the same challenges as Job did. The challenge we suffer is often the greatest one that Job suffered. And that was, what do we do with our pain that we can continue to have hope and faith? You know, when we have problems, what's the first thing that you want when a problem comes to you? What's the first thing you want to do? Resolve it, make it go away, right? Yeah, you know, no, I really don't need this problem, right? So the first thing we do is that when we want our problems to go away. And so in the beginning, our prayers are probably very much that. Let's make this fast, God. Let's get through this pretty quickly. And when that doesn't happen, then what begins to happen? You know, you begin to get depressed. That, you know, in the beginning you were like, yes, God can help me get through anything. I can manage this. And, you know, it doesn't matter. I have my faith. But as the days drag on and they turn into weeks and months, we often slip into despair and depression. And the things that we need to really be healed, hope and faith, they begin to dwindle. You know, despair is something that happens when things don't go the way that we expect. Despair happens when, you know, we're dealing with a situation that is causing us pain or physical pain itself, and we've lost the ability to enjoy life as we once had. And we wonder if that's ever going to be possible again. And so what I wanted to talk about today is that if we read and we study, there's lots of theories about pain and suffering and healing and faith and hope. But the lesson that I believe that is here in the book of Job, and I believe it's the lesson that is in Jesus and the healings that he did while he was here on earth, was that with faith and hope, we may and we will have the promise of being healed. However, that doesn't mean that we will be cured, because there is a fundamental difference between being healed and being cured. A cure is something that we want initially. You know, when we find out the diagnosis, we want it to go away. We want to take the medicine and we want it to be over with. The cure is the thing that we pray for desperately, that we want things to be back the way they always were. We want what was our old life back. We want to be able to do the things that we once were able to do. It's a restoration of the golden past. The cure, however, is for the disease and not for the person. Jesus heals people. Healing is for us and for our souls. You see, there are lots of people that are cured. I don't know how many times I hear people say, you know, that person doesn't even believe. They're not even a nice person. And how come they were healed? I've never said it, but I probably thought in my head, you know, they probably weren't healed. They were cured. But it didn't change them. The disease might be gone, but they remain the same. Doctors cure many people, and they cure them from their physical illnesses. But yet, it doesn't give people peace. You know, often people are cured, and then what happens is they live the rest of their lives fearful that that disease will return again. And they never have the peace that comes from being healed. Healing isn't for our diseases. Yes, there are people who are healed through medicine. There are people who are healed miraculously, and their disease is gone. But healing is more than getting rid of a disease. Healing, instead, is a matter of being transformed by the love of God. It is being able to place our hope and our faith in a God whose love is bigger than whatever pain we face. And healing is actually a time of transition. It's a threshold. It's a place that we go from who we once were and we cross over in healing to the next stage. Often, it's the beginning of a new life story. For me, the best practical way to explain a healing is with people who are in recovery. That what happens is there becomes a time in which they lean on God more than whatever that addiction was. And they cross over and they become whole. And because of that, they don't have their old life back just without the substance, but instead they have a new wholeness because of the transforming love of God. Healing is not making things the way they were before, but it is giving ourselves a new wholeness, something that we could possibly never envision. Healing is about embracing and standing ready to embrace the love of God. Healing is about coming before God and opening ourselves up to his transformational power. You know, the Bible often speaks of being healed in terms of being made whole. And I think that's a really good way to look at it. To be a whole person means that in the circumstance in which you now live, to trust and believe that you can live fully and completely, and that you can be happy and you can be productive and you can have a life that God desires for you. When you're in pain, isn't that really what we want? That we want to feel that our lives have value and purpose. And sometimes that's what pain steals from us, is that value and purpose in life. To know God is to know that God desires wholeness for you. God desires physical health. But we need to remember that God can make us whole without necessarily restoring us to the health we once had. You know, I think that, you know, especially at the time of Super Bowl and the end of athletic seasons, we often see these stories of these people who face great obstacles and great pain, and despite the being amputees and despite having diseases, that they continue to go on, and that their life now is even far better than the life they had when they were once a star. I'm sure we'll see plenty of those stories in the sports news over the next couple days. You know, sometimes we believe that, you know, if we just got XYZ winning the Super Bowl, that our life would be awesome. But sometimes the wholeness that God has in store for us is taking us exactly who we are and allowing us to reach the heights that God desires and has planned for each of us. The amputee who discovers that they can be a whole person even without the limb that they lost. Or the divorcee who discovers that they can be the whole person without that former partner. Or the unemployed person who can discover that they can be a whole person without a job. God desires for us to be whole people, and he is working for us for exactly that cause. And so today I want you to look around, and I want you to see what are the things that God could contribute to your life and to your healing. Are they friendships? Are they loving relationships? Is it someone that God is going to place in your life because of your hurts and your pain? Is there beauty or goodness that can restore your hope? Is there a support group or a Bible study or a gathering of men who can do the things that are necessary to help you move to that place of wholeness? What are the experiences that God has in store for you to heal you? Are there challenges along the way? Absolutely. But they're not challenges that you and God cannot overcome.